It's possible that this will be the most boring video I ever make. I've been a mum for 13 years, and I think because I teach yoga, some people assumed that I've somehow got this whole stress and motherhood thing worked out. I really haven't. But I do have a few tips to share with you to help make your life a whole lot less stressful. I do a lot of yoga, the physical practice, meditation, study, self-study, and teaching yoga. Even the work that I do counseling in a primary school comes from a yoga perspective. And yet life still feels stressful. There's no amount of yoga or any other stress reducing practice that's going to help you completely get rid of your stress. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't practice yoga. Of course, I'm still an advocate for yoga. It definitely helps to manage the stress, but if you don't address what's causing the stress in the first place, no amount of yoga practice is going to help reduce your stress overall. The tools you learn in a yoga practice are invaluable in dealing with all those unexpected and uncontrollable stresses that will inevitably pop up in your life. And a yoga practice can also give you the mental space to realize that sometimes reducing stress actually means you need to take action and change something or stop something or put a system in place to change the way you do things so that you can feel less stressed overall. So let's talk today about 3 incredibly boring systems I've created to make motherhood less stressful. One of the first systems you need has to be around the laundry. And I think before you even create the system, you have to accept that you're actually never going to win the battle over the laundry. Unless you decide to embrace nudity and nobody wears clothes anymore, you're never going to win the battle. You're always going to be mid-wash cycle, mid-dry cycle, or somewhere in between the sorted washing basket and never actually making it to the cupboard put away in the right place. At least that's how it works in our house anyway. You need a system where everyone can find what they need to find of a morning or of an evening without needing to ask you. If you can avoid that battle where I can't find my socks, or I've got no underwear, or I can't find my rugby shirt, then you're winning at motherhood. So you need a system where it's very clear where they need to find their clean clothes, where they need to put their dirty clothes, and where they need to look when they can't find it, when it's not in the usual places. So for us, that looks like a system of baskets in the laundry with everybody's name on them. So I try to sort straight from the dryer into the clean baskets. It doesn't always happen. Exhibit A, because I've worked the first 3 days this week, we've ended up with 2 random assorted baskets on the floor. They are clean, so we're still winning the week. I also keep clean uniforms in one place. They never get put away in their wardrobes. For 5 out of the 7 days of the week, that's what they're looking for, so we keep them in the laundry or just outside of the laundry on a smaller shelf for my younger 2, and it makes getting dressed of a morning super easy and makes my life so much less stressful. Now, before you go and research the perfect laundry routine or setup or anything like that, I want you to avoid anything that claims perfection, because I think that's getting back into this mindset of I can win the laundry game. You can't win the laundry game. It's a never-ending game. You're never going to win it. And that's the key to the less stress part, is not trying to win this never-ending thing that has to happen in order for us to wear clean clothes as a family of 5. So don't go hunting on the internet for hours looking for the perfect system. Instead, just start something that seems like it might work for you and then adjust as you go. This hasn't been our system for the whole time. When I had smaller babies, it looked very different, but this is what's working for us at the moment. Usually about once a week, I will empty these baskets, or if they get fuller sooner, into more baskets in their room. So it's a clean clothes basket in their room. And look, in an ideal world, the clothes would get sorted from the basket into their cupboards. They have cupboards and drawers that they could go into. Do they ever make it to the cupboards? Maybe once a month. But does it affect my life in any great way? Not really. As long as it's in the basket and you can tell what's clean and what's dirty and they're not just tipping the basket all over the floor, I don't really stress about it anymore. I just don't really care. As long as it's sorted and everybody knows where their clothes are, we're good.
Mom, can you help me find some socks?
Before I had kids, no one told me about all the paper, the countless pieces of artwork and school reports and school photos and the love notes they write you and all of the things that just accumulate in your house. If you don't already have one, you need a system to deal with all of this. A system to save and to throw out all of the paperwork that is involved with kids so that you don't end up living in a completely cluttered and overwhelming space. I've got a really simple system. It's 3 baskets labeled for each of my kids. And I try to just keep anything I think they might want to see. So if they write me a funny little note or a story, or it's a really cool kind of drawing, one that's different to the mass work that they typically create, then I'll put that in there. And yes, sometimes I'll go through it a few years later and be like, why did I keep this? And then throw something out from there. But at least there's some sort of saving system instead of piles in various places all over the house. So if it's something I don't want to keep, which is often the hardest of paperwork to deal with, I'll just put it on the fridge for the time or on the pin board, and then when the kids are sleeping or not here, it will be filed into the bin. And I think that's okay. Like, they've already forgotten they did it. Nobody's going to be emotionally scarred from me throwing it out. And if it makes your home and your life a lot less stressful and overwhelming, then it's definitely worth it. Let go of the stuff that nobody's going to care about in 20 years' time. And if you can't bear to throw out your kids' artwork, if you can't bring yourself to do it even when they're not there, to drag it out of the bin and re-put it back on the fridge, then may I suggest you use it as wrapping paper. Use it to wrap the grandparents, the aunties and uncles' Christmas presents and birthday presents, and you've effectively made it somebody else's problem. Isn't this just the most perfect representation of me? And then finally, you need a system whereby you don't have to do all of this yourself. Whether that's hiring help to do certain aspects of it, whether it's making a system so that your partner can do it, whether it's teaching your kids how to do certain aspects of all of the things that typically fall on the mother in family life. If we don't do something to make sure that this work is shared, because the expectations on us as mothers are enormous, especially when you're also balancing health conditions or a full-time job or a part-time job, or if you're trying to grow a business or you're trying to study. Whatever's going on for you, you need to not be doing everything. And I know sometimes it just feels easier to get in and do it, because to change things possibly means difficult conversations with people. It means you have to push kids out of their comfort zone, which inevitably means you'll have tantrums at the start, you'll have pushback, you'll really have to monitor and model and teach at the start. Like, we can't just expect our kids to know how to do chores. You actually have to teach them and model them and do it with them, and gradually release responsibility until they can do it on their own. And that can take a really long time and more energy that you may not have. But in the long term, it's so beneficial because you can't be doing everything. Especially if your kids are little now, think about what it will be like when they're teenagers. Are you expecting that they're going to cook once a week, or do their own washing, or help with the housework? Whatever it is that you expect, and I hope the answer is yes, they should be doing all of these things and helping. It's much easier if you teach them and get them into that habit when they're little, as opposed to trying to do it when they're older. And I also want to say, I'm really only just working on this in our home now. I have just been doing it all, and I've been burning out, and I've been trying to work a really intense job and build this business, which I love so much, and be as present as I can for my kids. And I was burning out trying to do all of the things at home on my own. Instead, now I am really trying to emphasize that my kids have a daily job that they have to do, and really helpful jobs that I typically do every day, like unpacking the dishwasher, which I still do 3 times a day, but at least one of those times is not me anymore. Or tidying the lounge room, because that's a space where I like to sit down of an evening once they've all gone to bed, and I like it to not be full of kids stuff and pillows on the floor and blankets everywhere. I like it to be feeling a little bit, even if the rest of my house is chaos, I like that space to feel a little bit serene. So I've got my littlest, who's only 6 but is more than capable of tidying the lounge room each day. That's his job. Ironically, he's usually the one who makes the mess in the lounge room, and I think what's helped is now that he has to clean it up, he's not making as much mess. So that's worked out well for everyone. And yes, I do want to recognize that sometimes our partners are the hardest ones to convince in this game. And I do think sometimes you just need to stop being so efficient so that they can pick up where they need to. Because if you've already done it, they're not going to do it. And sometimes you just have to not do the thing as efficiently and then ask for help to do that. Have a really honest conversation about what you need. Our roles in the home will need to ebb and flow depending on the age of our kids. When you've got newborns, the expectations on you need to be way reduced. But unfortunately for many of us, we never have this conversation prior to having kids, and we don't have it throughout the changing seasons of parenting. You need to have these conversations so that it's really clear who's doing what needs to be done, what can we let slide because it actually doesn't really impact anyone if it doesn't get done. And try to let go of that expectation that your home should somehow look a certain way. It should look like you live in it. It shouldn't look like what you see on Instagram. Of course, it's okay to want to have certain areas clear. Like I like to have the kitchen bench and the dining table clear because they're our main spaces that we live in. And once they're clear, it feels like, I don't know, we kind of got our lives together or something. But the laundry doesn't need to be a pristine, clear space. My laundry most of the time looks like a shit show. But it's a really organized shit show and everything's in its own piles and the kids can find their stuff. Let go of this idea in your head of what it should look like and make a plan to not do it all yourself, not put that expectation on yourself, not beat yourself up for the things you don't get to. Because even though I started this video saying this was possibly the most boring topic to talk about, systems and processes in the home, it actually helps to reduce the stress of motherhood so much because these are the things that are never ending and ongoing. You're always going to have to grocery shop and meal plan and wash clothes and tidy the house and organize school forms and school lunches. This stuff never ends. Having really good systems for the stuff that never ends and is always ongoing, and everybody in the family has a role to play in those systems, that is going to help bring your workload and mental load down so much, which will help to reduce your stress. Yes, life will still be stressful. Yes, your kids will still have tantrums. Yes, you'll still have conflict with your partner. But the other stuff will already be sorted. And if you're regularly practicing yoga, you'll have really good tools to conflict manage and deal with emotional regulation. So hopefully you'll be at a kind of baseline level of stress that you'll be able to deal with those unexpected things that crop up rather than feeling constantly stressed by the stuff that's inevitable, the stuff that you can make systems around to make your life less stressful. And finally, I want to remind you, it's all a work in progress. None of these things work perfectly in my home. Don't be fooled by social media. Ready, set, go.
What? You still That pushes on. Just do like that. You said do it hard.
Yeah. Mabel, can you swap sides so I can, you're on my strong side? Okay, you ready? Go.